Welcome to your safe space where we talk about real stories with real people with no judgment. Joining us today is Kat Cruz. So she is a longtime friend and a longtime lover of life on a journey of loving herself maybe a little bit more now. So, hi Kat, how are you?
Hi, Kiars. I'm good. And a lover of you.
Well, me too. How have you been? What have you been busy with?
I'm good. Busy with I don't know, the day-to-day things, work, family, home chores, the usual.
Yeah. Do you still work from home?
Yes, but most of the month I work from home, but sometimes during the month I have to report to the office.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a very different world we're living in nowadays.
Truly, truly.
But how have you been, ano naman, parang with all of the changes and everything, how would you say you're doing with it?
Um, Um,
Oh,
I
I can hear
guess I'm doing. I have guess I'm doing the best I can with the changes. I mean, like everyone,
Yeah,
naman is just trying to adjust and just hoping things will get better. So
that's
we're all
true.
just dealing with the carts. I mean, dealing with whatever we have right now and just hoping for the best. I guess. Yeah.
That's true. I think we're all doing our best, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely more than enough.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that article, right? The languishing article.
Yes, that super
So
resonated with
accurate.
me. Yeah, that super
Alright.
resonated with me because like there was finally a term for like what I was feeling, what I was experiencing, and what it's good to feel like I'm not alone in the languishing during this period, and it just makes you feel seen as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's such a big factor, I think, into just getting through um the day to day of like what we're dealing with now, like the situation. But
Yeah.
maybe for those who haven't read the article, what
Mhm.
part of it, like, or maybe what about um how languishing was talked about resonated with you the most?
I think it was just spot on in how they described what languishing was
Mhm.
really.
Yeah,
Um, so it's like it sort of feels like a a dullness just kind of consumes you.
yeah,
Um, like all your days, you're going through the motions, but that's just it. You're going through the motions, but there's a sense of meaninglessness as you're going through each day, and the days kind of mesh into just one, and
it's
you
true.
lose yeah, you lose track of um the days time, but also there's just an emptiness and a lack.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what it feels
Yeah,
like. Mhm.
that's true. I feel like because we're so limited then with what we can do, um, compared to before, and there's really that sense of loss over such a long period of time.
Yes.
But um, so glad for that they finally released that article and that we're
Yeah.
also able to name what it is that feeling is. But if that's something that you've been resonating with recently, maybe you can share with us a little bit about your mental health journey in general. Parang from before until now, like what
uh
was it like for you? You know?
okay, well, definitely I've been like, as I mentioned, I've been experiencing the whole languishing thing um during this pandemic, but I guess to just give a fuller picture of like my mental health journey, maybe I would like to go back to the day I was born. No, just kidding.
Aw.
Not that way back. Like
Let's just go
not
back to our time machine and like,
yes, let's go to, the year 1995. No. Okay, well, I guess to start, I've always been fascinated with people, like the way their minds work, the different perspectives they take, what
Mm-hmm.
motivates them to do or say certain things, the way they interact with each other, with other people, and the backgrounds they come from. So basically, like, I'm very much fascinated by their stories, like people's stories. And to find out that there was a science to it all, um, made psychology like the course for me.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll begin with like my time in college. So I would say that my personal health journey, as in looking after my mental health, really started in college when I was learning about it during my psych majors.
Mm-hmm.
It was there that I learned of like the many things that could happen to someone's mental condition, both the positive and the negative, and how it's just as important to look after your physical health as it is to look after your mental health. And at times it's even more important because it the mental health like affects your bodily functions as well. So that's how it began for me. And it also really helped that I had blockmates who turned out to be become my really close friends later on until today. And they created, I would like to say, the best atmosphere, a very conducive atmosphere and support system where I could openly discuss um, and tackle mental health with them. So it was my safe space, where we could share, our really low days, the lowest of the lows. We could share our triumphs, you know, um, and even the in betweens. And sometimes, a lot of times, being psych undergrads, even we even share our like unwarranted diagnosis of each other. Although that we do not, I do not recommend that to but I mean, there's a there's a s- there's a fun aspect to it.
Mm.
And although the rest of my friends and I have always been very self-aware in that sense, I mean, we are psych graduates for a reason. It made a difference to have a third perspective with that in that safe space. That's what I gained, that third perspective. We all
Agree.
did. Because I mean, we can be very in our heads most of the times. We know things about ourselves, but then like it's different when you get an outsider's point of view. Makes it a bit more objective and like just gives you another way of looking at things. And it's in that space that my friends and I could openly and without judgment like talk about their experiences. We help each other like process things that we experience, and um all of it is like packed and supported by like just a genuine care and concern for each other, which I think is the most important part of it.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's how
I'm
it began. Yeah.
yeah, that's a really beautiful way for your journey to begin because you already were able to have access to such a safe place for you to
Mm-hmm.
be yourself. And I love what you mentioned about the third perspective because
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely true that we all have our blind spots. So
Yes.
just having people to just bounce off ideas from or just to say like this is what I'm thinking because it's so easy to feel like for the lack of because it's always getting thrown around, right? And sometimes even if you know to not label yourself as crazy, it
Yeah.
can sometimes be easy to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's great. You mentioned pala that
Yeah.
that's kind of where it began, like especially for your own personal
Mm-hmm.
mental health and like being able to um deal with those kinds of things. What were the things that you learned or maybe that you were able to apply to yourself? Parang it was super helpful.
Well, I mean, that was the start of it, right? So like getting that support system, being able to talk about it, the whole discussion of mental health was such a big start to my journey. But
Mm-hmm.
throughout that college experience, I reached a turning point actually in my third year. Because I I spent a term abroad in the Netherlands as like on a student exchange program kind of thing. And it was during that time that I experienced actually a depressive season in my life, um, due to like intense homesickness. And I've never
Okay.
felt that
Yeah.
way emotionally and mentally before. Like there would be days where I couldn't even get out of my room, my bed, and I would just spend the whole day like ruminating on like how I'm away from home, and I couldn't move on from that feeling. It sort of
Yeah.
felt like I was in a black hole that I was sucked into, and I couldn't get
Mm-mm.
out of it for months. Um, so it
Wow.
was, yeah, um, it was a terrible time. It was during that time that
Yeah.
I also experienced what I believe to be sleep paralysis episodes and some panic or anxiety attacks for the first time in my life.
Mm-mm.
Um, and there would be days where I would wake up with my heart like beating really quickly, and just like I wake up with an unexplainable sense of fear in me. Sometimes there I'd be sweating, um, yeah, or like crying when I wake up. So like those were dark times for me. But it was that season in my life that actually opened my eyes to the reality of mental health, not just on the level of like knowing the theories with my, in class or with my friends, but on a very firsthand experiential level.
Yeah.
Yeah, so um, it was a different stage of my mental health journey. So it was not just the knowing, really, it was really the feeling, the thinking, the experiencing, all of it. And it made me start to take care of myself mentally. So there's actually this quote I remember from, I don't know if you guys watched Lucifer,
I
but
love Lucifer.
yes, Lucifer is so good. So in the latest season, sorry if this is a spoiler, but I hope it's not. God, the character of God in the series says to Ella there, the darker the darkness, the brighter the light. So that's kind of how that whole experience was for me. It turned out that I wasn't in a black hole. I was just going through a tunnel. So like, and true enough, in the latter part of my study in the Netherlands during my exchange, I was able to overcome the homesickness, although it took some time, like almost like nearing towards my end already. When I was close to going home, that's when I got out of
Yeah.
it. And I left, and when I left, I actually gained new and meaningful friendships that really cherish, and very special experiences that I wouldn't replace or exchange for anything. And that made that time of my life like both my worst and best time, like in my whole life. So to date, I'm hoping for better. But yeah, that would be my experience with like starting to take care of myself mentally.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
I love that you brought that quote up because I feel like it's such an accurate way, like what you said, right? It's the best and the worst, but
Mm.
like the darker that place felt, the brighter you were able to, you are shining, currently.
Yes.
So, I did want to ask because you said that you're able to overcome the homesickness and
Hmm.
being able to get out of the hole. What were the steps that were helpful for you parang during that time, or what was helpful to be able to get out of it?
To be honest, like, I mean, it was, I mean, I would talk to my family as much as I can just to like cope with the
Yeah.
homesickness, but it turned out to be counter productive in a way that I sort of developed a dependency by speaking with them every day, and like it actually made it worse for me because I couldn't detach from home by doing that. So um yeah, it's that's how I got deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. But I guess what helped me was that they just, like, besides my family, my friends, like they just never gave up on me, no matter how like
Wow.
repetitive my rants or my, my venting sessions would be. I mean, they just took it with a grain of salt and just tried to be there for me as much as they could, like even if they were miles away. So there wasn't really like a one day, oh, I was okay. It was really a process. So 3 months in the making, really. Um,
Yeah.
it was the people I was taught, my support system back home, but also like my experiences there. Certain travels that somehow were so, I don't know how to say, like providential, and like
Wow.
I don't know. It just kind of like, it felt like when there were moments that things just really fell into place for me, and it that's when I found out that, like, oh, the universe is on my side here. Like, it's not here to torture me. And I mean, there's so much I'm so lucky to be uh on this JTA experience, on this exchange abroad. Like, there's so much I should be thankful for. And I guess that sense of gratitude and um you know opening my eyes more to what I did have at the moment helped.
Yeah.
Although like I said, I was blinded by the dark for quite a while, so it took time. And also the new friendships I made there um are what really helped me like come out of it. Like, I didn't
Mm.
expect to make like friends with those people in a different country. These were like people on JTA, but also but they were in a different country, not in the Netherlands. And I don't know, they kind of just dragged me out of the holes in a way. Like, yeah, that's how it is. I couldn't do it by myself. That's basically the bottom line.
Yeah.
But a very big part of it also was, me just day in and day out making the decision to try to actually get out of it.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I think it's so nice because when you were talking, it just made me feel like there were so many things that reminded you that you weren't alone. That reality, that even if the reality you were experiencing felt so dark, another reality existed in the same at the same time. So, but sometimes like we just also need other people to remind us of what that reality is, like
Yeah.
what it is, to pull you out of it. Even just as simple as maybe like, right, bringing you outside, or like,
Yeah.
having a cup of coffee or something.
It really does make a
Right.
difference. Because
Yeah.
especially like I think what also um contributed to the homesickness and the depressive season was that was my first legit winter. So it really makes a difference, right? There is a thing like seasonal depression.
Yeah,
I would hear that from my friends who live abroad.
it's true.
Sometimes they even take like vitamin D pills
Mhm.
because of the lack of sun, just to like, for their mood as well. So it wasn't just me being in my head. It was also a biological thing,
Yeah,
which is what people need to understand when it comes to mental health. It's really a holistic thing. Um, yeah, so it's physical, emotional, everything,
true.
even environmental, external. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, I love that you mentioned that also because I think it can be so easy to blame ourselves when we're going through something. Like either
Right.
we're doing something wrong or we're not doing enough, or all of these kinds of, I think they're lies actually, because whatever it is, I mean,
Yeah.
diba, parang,
Yeah.
it's not our fault. Like there are other factors to reasons. Hindi naman sa, not to take responsibility for what we're experiencing, but I feel like in terms of the spectrum, it's a little bit easier to blame ourselves for not being okay, right? especially in that context. It's so important not to be aware na, oh, maybe it's because I haven't been going out as much and I haven't been getting sun, especially now, right, with the lockdown. Parang, it
Yes,
can
yes.
be like that. Like maybe,
Like
being
the
inside is,
cabin fever thing is real, guy.
yeah, being inside isn't, you're not really made, right, to be isolated.
Yeah.
So
And I
definitely.
realized how important the sun really is. And we're lucky to be in a tropical country, although like the summer
I
is so
agree.
bad right now, but the sun is really our source of like
Joy.
light, energy, strength, joy, everything. Like it because during that time the sun would only be up from 10 to 4.
Oh my
Uh
gosh.
and like the Netherlands, it's like okay, don't quote me on this, um Dutch people and Europeans, but like it was kind of like the UK and how it was always rainy, or like there was there was one day that there were just four seasons, and one day there was hail, there was rain, there was sun, there was snow. And yeah, so it's like it's just quite, I mean, coming
What an
from a place where
experience.
it's either sunny or kind of drizzling or typhoon, it was shocker.
Yeah,
But
all in one day.
all in one day. Yeah, so yeah, and I mean, it doesn't help to be in a very new place with unfamiliar people. I mean, it's always a challenge.
You talked a lot about how your mental health was during that time.
Hmm.
And, a couple of years have passed since
Hmm.
then. So maybe you can give us like, if there's something that's changed since then for you, with that experience of it. Like, I think you mentioned that it was the first time and you're really able to feel what you've been reading about, what you were studying about in school.
Hmm. Right.
So yeah, nice.
Um, well, so yeah, I saw it. I mean, I heard of it from my friends. I saw it in myself. And then a year after graduation, I think, I found out that someone in my immediate support system was diagnosed with a psychological condition. And which, as most mental health issues are, it was built up and developed over years of painful, sometimes even traumatic experiences, which were never fully expressed, unfortunately. And so
Yeah.
it was affecting my relationship with that person, and also that person's relationship with those around her in our immediate circle, even. And to the point that it affected that person's day to day. So at first it was more of like um pain for me for a long time. Although like, I mean, she was the one going through it, but I couldn't help but feel pain um when I found out that I had some part in that. I had some influence or contribution to those pains, to those hurtful experiences that that person went through
Yeah.
in their life, that led them in a way to her psychological condition. But I mean, until most recently, I slowly learned that although it, like we mentioned, like what you mentioned earlier, it's important to hold ourselves accountable for the part we play in other people's lives. But there are some occasions that they're just out of our control, like how others take what we say, what we do, how they interpret our actions. And so to some degree, we can't also continually blame ourselves. And I would say that's what happened to me, for the most part of that, the revelation of her psychological condition, and like dealing with it, because it also affected my day to day. And I what I learned from that is that what we can do is just try to be, like, as much as we can, just try to be more careful with the things we do, the things we say, to be more aware of others, like their feelings, their current states, moods, um be more understanding to others. But ultimately, it's more um, learning to be patient with ourselves, because if at times we cannot be our 100%, that is completely okay, because we're just human after all. I mean, um, that's we're all trying, and
Yes. Yeah.
as long as we're all just trying to be better, then that's what's important, I think. And so it was during that time that I was kind of jolted to realize the importance of the support system, not only in your immediate circle but in society, because mental health is real, guys. I mean, how necessary it is to really pay attention to and tend to someone's mental health, and how
Yeah.
I wish it could be openly spoken about in the public space, just as much as I openly speak about it with my private group chats, with my friends, my support system, and um to discourse about it in a constructive way, with the goal or the purpose of building each other up in society, supporting each other, and not to call out or to stigmatize or to exclude or to outcast. Um, because, like, we're all dealing with our own darkness. Some can be bleaker than others. And we have to try, our best to be the sun in their winter, that little light, to help them guide that person, guide each other through our own tunnels. And more often than not, it can be a series of tunnels, because I mean, this is life. It's not 1 week. But there are always, I believe, moments of light, and we can be the source of that. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Kat. It's really, honestly, it's really a testament to how your heart is so big, because, the fact that
Mm,
it's something that jolted you so much, I think it shows just how much you love that person, how
mm.
much they mean to you. And super
Thank you.
agree, preach girl. Like, I think we're on our way to a more inclusive and safer space. I think just like little things, parang even starting from where we are, it's just exactly what you, I think, continuously do with your family, with your friends, just the people that you're around. And I'm sure that makes such a big difference already. I love that also what you said about, loving ourselves a little more, and not, like if there's really only so much we can do, we're already doing our best. And as much as it's so easy to kind of go into that hole of like
Mm,
self blame, or thinking about things that we could have done better, or
right.
things like that, it's definitely such a worthwhile journey to be on, because I don't know, I feel like when we love ourselves more, we're also able to love others more in a
Exactly.
more whole way. And I'd
Yes.
love to hear about it. Like, what has your self love
Oh
journey been
my.
looking like?
I mean, I don't want to overuse the self-love term, although
Yeah, it's all right.
yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. But I guess I'll make my own term, my mental health journey. um, so I'm sorry. um, so yeah, I guess how I've been helping myself. Well, after a few years of focusing my efforts first on like trying to help that person and also my other
Mhm.
friends, which I
Yeah,
still do at present. But it was really during this COVID pandemic that I had the opportunity, and where I really made the conscious decision to work on myself, my mental health, with more intentional efforts.
yeah,
Um, and I'm grateful that I have this opportunity, or like that this whole season in our lives became an opportunity for me. And um, it actually, like, again, what I mentioned about how sometimes things just fall into place and the universe kind of helps you out a little. Um, During the start of the pandemic, I happened upon this online course by Yale on the science of well-being. And well, I was just so happy to like hear that such course existed. I mean, well-being, yes. Science, yes. Yale, yes. But like, um, but yeah. So I was so happy to find it, and I wanted to take it, so I took it, and I was just so happy to be back learning psychological concepts. You know, the nerd that I am, all the research through the
Mhm.
years, and most especially the effective ways that um, they were teaching us on like how to look after your own well-being. And it actually it included weekly homework. So
Okay.
yeah, so one of them would be like this. There was this whole week I had to write down each day what I was grateful for.
Yeah.
Another week of like on the topic of savoring naman, so I had
Ooh.
to, yeah, that was really nice too, um like really taking the time to, let's say, um be with your food, like savor the taste, the smell, and like write about it for a week. Um, and also, what was the other homework? There was a kindness week, so a whole journal of like, you have a whole week of, you have to do acts of kindness each day to like for other people, and especially like strangers, which was kind of hard for COVID time. But
Oh, yeah.
they also said that you could do like acts of kindness to specific acts of kindness that you would have never done for people like you're close to, like,
Mhm.
yeah. So it's a bit like going out of your comfort zone still, um or even just like checking up on someone who
Yeah.
lives abroad or something. So yeah. And then a whole week of like regular exercise, like daily exercise. So it's really like well-being,
Yeah.
um holistic, looking after yourself. Also like getting enough sleep each night for a week. And then daily meditation. And that was the one new practice that I would say um was became like my first aid tool, and which I took away from that course, and really made an impact in my life, because uh well, it just changed the way I went through my day to day. So it started with like me looking through different meditation apps after that course. Eventually, I found the best one for me, called
Okay.
Headspace. This is not
Oh,
an
headache.
ad. This is
It's
not an
not.
ad.
Sorry.
I just like saying that was the best for me, because there are so many other good meditation apps there, and you really just have to find the best for you. And again, things fell into place because a few weeks later, after I ended the online course, a close friend and a colleague of mine invited me to do this 21-day abundance journey, a meditation
I've
journey
heard of
by
that.
Deepak Chopra. Yeah, and so it was just weird because like we've never talked about meditation before, and suddenly she messages me and says, oh, do you want to try this? She messages me and like our other colleague. So these
Yeah.
are my like work teammates, but they're also my very close friends. And so we had this our own little abundance group in the first few months of the first few weeks of COVID, where we
Yeah.
would meditate each day. So there's like an audio meditation that you listen to each day for the 21 days. Then each day also you had tasks to do related to the meditation, and you had to share like your tasks with each other on that chat. So besides like keeping us connected during a time of social distancing, it was a very eye-opening experience for me because um, I've never actually reached those. I don't know how to explain it, but I've never reached those levels of consciousness before, like, or mental states, wherein there was a sense of peace brought about by pausing. And that's when I realized the value of meditation. Like it just really kind of forces you to pause and um take out all the other distractions and just go back to our innate capability to be at peace,
Mm-hmm.
and to be at peace with ourselves, and to
Yeah.
just be, present. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's how I started to fall in love with meditation, and I ended up. I wanted to continue it, although since it was just 21 days, so I was like, oh, how do I continue it? So I went back to Headspace, and I ended up subscribing to it, my first ever app subscription, for a whole year, because I was like, okay, dedication for myself. So I did that.
Yeah.
Um, so eventually, I started to do it every day for months. And ever since the beginning of COVID, I have taken um, different meditation courses on Headspace. Among others, it would be my favorite ones would be happiness, patience, acceptance, kindness, and relationships. And what I learned from those courses was not only how to be able to work on nurturing my relationships with others, through patience, through exhibiting patience, acceptance, kindness, bringing happiness to others. But more importantly, going back to the mental health, it was especially in my case, I realized that what I needed to work on was my patience, my acceptance, and showing kindness for myself. That what I needed more than anything, and in my life and through this time, was to really work on pursuing my own happiness and nurturing my relationship with myself. That internal relationship, and it all really stems from the mind. So that's how important our mind is. It begins with the mind. And when we're able to have that better relationship with ourselves, a better internal conversation, everything else follows and overflows, as you mentioned. Um, if you're able to love yourself, you're able to love others better. So, as opposed to collateral damage, it was, for me, it became a collateral building up.
I love
So,
it.
yeah. And along the way, I also happened upon nurturing, my spiritual life, which, like one's own mental life, is also very important and very closely connected to each other, actually. The mind and the soul, and just to put that in there. And this is also not an ad, but it kind of just connects one of my two favorite Disney movies, Inside Out and Soul. Um, but yeah, that's how it is. It's like they're actually more interconnected than we think, and it's also important to spend time to nurture our own spiritual life, which I'm just beginning to do, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's better. Yeah,
Yeah, you gave us so many recommendations. I think we've touched on a lot of things that will be really helpful, like practicing gratitude, savoring, being able to just stay in that good feeling. Because I
yeah.
feel like it's easier to I don't know, maybe sometimes it feels better to feel bad. I don't know if you get me, yung parang
It's easier.
yeah, it's
It's
easier.
easier to
Yeah,
savor a
the
bad
bad
feeling.
stuff.
Yeah.
It takes a little more effort, I
I
guess,
think
to
we're
just
wired that way. I don't
yeah,
know.
that's true.
Maybe.
But yeah, I love. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Parang practicing
Sure.
kindness, whether that's
Yeah.
for things. I think the key, like what you mentioned, is really going out of our comfort zone. Whether it's maybe practicing kindness to people that we normally wouldn't, or
Mm,
if that person includes us ourselves, like
yeah.
people relate to you there, then that's definitely something. But I love that you also talked about meditation as something
Mm,
that's really something so helpful, and um about how it's really in the mind, like being able to shift and I guess create that safer distance from our thoughts. And
yeah.
I was just curious, like for you,
Hmm.
parang what was the maybe if we had a little sneak peek in your mind, parang what changed? Like what was it about meditation in terms of your own experience? Like the thoughts that you were having, how did it
Um,
shift? Like what was it? What did it sound like? Parang
how to maybe I can explain like the experience
sure.
for me. Well, okay, because I'm a highly anxious person. So my mind is just doesn't shut up. Like I'm an overthinker.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the type A, type B things, but would like to think I am a type A person. Um, so it's hard for me to quiet my mind. And I mean,
Okay.
it's hard for everyone to quiet their minds. Um, and that's what meditation teaches us. But being a highly anxious person, it's even more difficult. But um, when I tried meditating, that level of consciousness I mentioned, that it was, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know that even just like some, it's really just like little moments, because it takes so long to get yourself into that headspace, into that, um, into that parang quiet nothingness. It is very rare even to get to that point. But once you do, even just a few seconds of being in that, I don't know, state, it's so freeing. Like, I don't want to seem like I don't want to sound like supernatural or anything, but like when I'm in that moment, I feel like my entire body is just one with the surroundings. Like
Yeah,
I
you're so
don't,
present.
yes, and like I don't feel the delineation between my body, this matter mass, and the rest of the world. Like I just, parang it was just all connected, and it was so, it's such a light feeling, because well, one, you're not worrying about things, but you're also just like doing nothing and
Yeah.
just trying to, well, the most, there are many techniques, because there's like visualization, there's resting awareness. I mean, you'll learn that also in the meditation app, which is good. And well, the most basic part of it is just like you get to focus on your breathing. And I mean, like, when have you ever tried to just do that, right? Just focus on the inhale, exhale. But it really does wonders. Like, and I mean, it's still hard for me to carve out time for my everyday to meditate. I mean, I'm not as religious as I was like a few months ago, but it, like, you need it more than you think. Like, just to pause, even just 1 minute of like 5 inhales and outhales. It just kind of reboots you. Um, and it just sets the tone, Ren, for the rest of the day, or the next few hours. And you just kind of, it's like, how do I say this, it's like you're just trying to pull yourself back to this moment. That's what
Mm,
meditation does. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you're just thinking about so many things, you're doing so many things, so it just kind of pulls you back down to the ground, and like just this moment right now. And that is so freeing. Yeah.
I agree. Meditation is super helpful, especially when it's so easy to kind of think about the future or think about the past. I feel like, right? It's either you're thinking about what you're gonna do next, or maybe you're
Yes.
thinking about something that happened
Yes.
X
I always like
amount
to,
of time ago.
I always like to tell people like I'm my own fortune teller. It's like I do that a lot. I mean, and that's what gets us like kind of, um that's what gets us out of the moment, because we're not just trying to deal with what's here right now.
It's true. It's
Mhm.
super, I think, one of the best ways to, I guess, really be able to feel less anxious, especially when it's really easy to worry about things that we don't know what's going to happen. There's so much uncertainty,
Mhm.
and what's certain is what's happening in front of us, and to be able to feel connected to that. So, we've had a lot of
Right.
plugs today, so that's definitely one of our recommendations from Kat to be able to, yun nga, parang the power of meditation in terms of helping us stay connected to the present moment and
Yes.
feel, safe in that moment. But other than meditation, was there other things that kind of helped you to get where you are now?
Um. Well, hmm, before I get into like what other things, just a big disclaimer: it is hard.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
I'm not saying that like meditation is easy to get. I mean, you keep hearing it that it's a practice, like anything, it's a practice. And I wouldn't say I'm so good at it. I'm still struggling with it. It's a daily undertaking. But well, like I mentioned, um, will you choose to afford yourself the same patience today as you do with others? I mean, it's really down to that. And that's where um, mindfulness comes in, you know. Other ways I try to, well, I think a lot of the other homework that I did for my science of well-being course, I continued. I mean, I've always been like into exercise, so but it's really important to, yeah, continue that, like even if just a little movement, a few minutes a day. So exercise, sleep is so important, and it's so hard to like get back your
Yeah.
biological clock, when even just like one night of like you sleeping late can sometimes mess it up. So, and it really does affect your energy for the rest of the day, even your mood. So like sleep is so important. And I mean, that's actually hard as well, next to meditation, to like keep on track. um Exercise, meditation, oh yeah, like I mean, there the gratitude and savoring um homework that, I mean, I don't journal every day, or like, but then there are moments in the day that I just try to savor it, like my cup of coffee, because I love coffee. um I'm not saying a brand because I've been saying, but like I know it can be weird, but I take like a few seconds to just sniff my coffee before I drink it. Like sometimes I'm like, ooh, what's the undertone in this one today? Or like, but I still read up on it and check what kind of coffee it is anyway. But like, I don't know, it just, the savoring aspect of it, I try to do it as much as I can, especially with food. I mean, that's the easiest thing for me to savor. Gratitude, try to I try to like, before I sleep, like look back at the rest of the day. Sometimes it's hard because, like, I mean, going back to languishing, sometimes the days just try to kind of meld into one. So it can be difficult to recall, but I think it's really important to recall what happened during the day, just so you don't feel like your day was a waste. So yeah,
That's
those are
true.
things I've been doing.
Yeah, and those are really, I think, small behaviors that are make the biggest difference because it's something that it's easy to practice, especially if we don't have time to like write down, or maybe diba, parang not everyone is really
Yeah.
a journaler. It's kind of hard to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so, little things like being able to smell your coffee, or even saying things out loud, right? Like
Yeah.
saying affirmations to ourselves out
Yeah.
loud. Um, and it feels a
Yes.
little weird, but I
It
think,
does. I did that
but
one time. It
yeah,
was kind of weird, but
it's
like,
weird, but I think it's a great practice. Like what you said, parang being able to bring that awareness to ourselves. And I guess sometimes I feel like the weirdness comes from the fact na culturally, diba, there's that fear of being mayabang or something. But I think the
yeah,
trade-off is the fact na, nga, medyo minsan it's harder to feel confident in who we are and not be,
that's
I
true.
guess, get rid of the shame in making mistakes or something.
Yeah,
So,
and like, parang it is easier for us to put ourselves down than to
yes.
bring ourselves up. So, oh, we should try.
I think everyone's doing a great job, honestly. Like, these are things na, you know, I think you're such a brave person for being able to talk about it and also trying so many different things. You're so proactive with how you were able to um face those things and still continue it. Parang I don't
Thank
know,
you.
like consistently exercising, for example. That's not. a small thing, and it's I feel like something that um, you can definitely be proud of. And whenever I see your posts, it also reminds me to really love my physical body a little more. So
Oh
thank
my
you.
god.
But you talked about a lot of different ways of really something things that have helped you. And I guess before we end, I just wanted to ask maybe if there was one thing that you've learned or something that's you continue to hold on to be able to just you know continue to find that hope in each day. What would it be?
Ah, I can't pin it down to one thing. Maybe a couple of things.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, well, maybe mm, well, definitely, I just want to be grateful for everyone out everyone in my life who is part of that support system, who has helped me get to where I am right now. Um, my family, my groups of friends who, although they are not perfect, we are not perfect, but I know I can rely on them, and that's the most important thing. And I
Yeah.
would like to count myself blessed in that aspect, because I've learned through the years that it's actually not common to have such a strong foundation or support system. And but I guess the most important thing I've learned is that we have to be our own constants for ourselves in our own lives. We have to be our own backers, like our own hype men and hype women. Like you mentioned, like making those positive affirmations for ourselves out loud, being understanding of ourselves. That's really such a big help to ourselves, and we owe it to ourselves to do that. And it just boils down to being patient with and kind to ourselves. Uh I remember this episode of, I don't know if you watched The Bold Type. No, you do. Uh but it was um it was an episode that featured like a marathon in New York. So that made me think, actually, like, oh, life is a marathon. Like, we're in it for the long haul. So, like, it's okay to make those pit stops, those water breaks, if you need to, like, gather up the energy to push another day. And, like they say, don't forget to smell the flowers, look around, savor, see the sights, feel the breeze, that kind of thing. But also find people to run life with, take the time to talk to people along the way. And although that is probably not the way to win a marathon. Um, but I mean, we're not here to win at life. It's not a race. We're just here to live the best way we can, to be present in each step we take, and just enjoy every stride. So yeah.
That is beautiful. I will listen to this again and then I'm gonna down. You covered everything in such a poetic way. I
Oh,
agree. Jacqueline would be very proud of your answer. So Jacqueline is from the bold.
yes,
Oh,
best boss ever.
yeah, that's so nice. Thank you so much, Kat,
No,
and thank
thank
you so.
you. Like, I really feel honored that you asked me to speak, because I really didn't know if I had anything value adding to share. But I just really believe in your safe space. This your advocacy of trying to make mental health um not a stigma, trying to make it accessible for everyone, to open up the discussion out there. It's super important, the work you guys are doing, and I'm just very grateful that I have friends who care about other people in the world this way. So thank you for
Oh,
inviting me.
and yeah, thank you so much, Kat. And really, we're really so honored and grateful for your time and all your stories and really just everything you shared. So thank you for being so honest and all of the mm, what do you call, my brain is blanking. All of the witty things. What do you call things that are witty? Puns. All of the puns. So
Uh,
Well, I'm gonna keep working also on my mental health.
You know it.
Um, and yeah, really, I'm looking forward to trying all of the things that you mentioned and just really being more intentional about including things to be more loving, whether it's for ourselves or for other people. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really just want to honor you and thank you. And for everyone listening, if you've made it this far,
Oh
thank
my
you so
god.
much for listening. And stay tuned because we have more coming, more stories in store. And it's never about the perfect, being in a perfect place. And I think it's really just regardless of where we're at, right, in our mental health journey, it's
Mhm.
definitely not, you know, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But
Nope.
yeah, like what you said, the marathon can we might be in different places, but there's always something valuable. And I'm sure, like
Right.
what we experienced with you, there's definitely um, more to look forward to. So thanks again, Kat, and thank you for everyone again. This is Safe Space, and we'll see you next time.